In this video, we are going to take all the work that we've done and we are bringing it into text, specifically All the World's a Stage by William Shakespeare. You've got a little bit of the meaning of that already, but let's go through the text slowly to understand the pronunciation and what's actually being said. Fantastic. All the world's a stage. Now, when I begin a Shakespeare monologue, I always say that the first line is the most important. It sums up the entire monologue, and I always take it a little bit slower so we can give the audience time to understand what's going on. All the world's a stage. What does that mean? I think it's pretty much in the words themselves. Now, when I teach Shakespeare and when I read Shakespeare, when I perform Shakespeare, one rule stands out to me, and that is to enjoy the vowels. It's a bit different from other texts because Shakespeare uses the vowels so wonderfully. All the world's a stage. That's me slowing it down a little bit, but you start to see that rhythm. You start to see those vowels coming through. All the world's a stage. We're not focusing on the consonants, you focus on the vowels, and the beauty of the word starts to come through. All the world's a stage. Comma, again, we start to respect the punctuation that's in here. And all the men and women merely players. Again, we are enjoying those vowels. What does that mean? And all the men and women merely players. It means all the men and women, everyone in the world, actors, basically. Players were actors. We all do plays. Plays are actors. We're all part of this stage, which is the world. Enjoy those vowels. And we're telling a story. When you're doing a monologue, understand what you're saying as a whole. Right now, we're telling a story of the stages of the world as we go through it. It may be something different that you're doing, but pick what you're doing. As we're telling a story, I'm picking this kind of storytelling aspect to it. It's much bigger than anything else. All the world's a stage. Nothing is bigger than that. And all the men and women merely players. We are all in this together. All the men and women merely players. Again, this is my interpretation of it. You may come out and be like, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. Nothing is wrong. As we go through this, nothing is wrong. This is my interpretation of it. They have their exits and their entrances. Again, enjoying those vowels. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. What does that mean? It means they live and die. It means they live and die. Again, this is big stakes. These are big stakes. So you allow yourself to embody that. You can't just be like, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. It does not do the text justice. Doing these warm-ups, doing these articulation exercises, rooting yourself, all the world's a stage. It doesn't matter who you're performing to because you are getting that feeling of the words. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. What does that mean? One man in his time plays many parts. We all have different roles. We all go through 7 stages of life, which is what this is called. This speech is called the 7 Ages of Man. So we're going to go through the 7 ages of man together in this speech. His acts being 7 ages. Enjoying those vowels. At first, the infant. What does that mean? Pretty much on the nose right there. At first, the infant. Where do we all start? As babies. And as we do this, whenever we storytell, this is one thing I teach my students as well. Whenever we storytell, picture it in your head. If I just say at first, the infant, there's nothing there. You're not connected to me as a story. If I picture in my head, either myself as a baby or we're going through this, we're telling a story of a baby. At first, the infant. You get a little bit of that childish joy. And as we go through the ages, I'll explain that more as we go, but start to picture these images. Because if you don't picture them, if you don't have these images in your head, why should the audience? At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Wonderful words there. As we go through Shakespeare, Shakespeare uses some incredible words. Mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. He could just say, the baby's been sick. But he doesn't. He uses these wonderful descriptors, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. So as we do that, think about that. Why does he choose those words? And enjoy them. Enjoy these lovely words that he does. Mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Imagine that nurse being vomited on, and it will conjure up some images in your head that will transfer to the audience. At first, the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. And then, moving on to the next stage, that was stage 1 of the 7 stages of man, moving on. And then the whining schoolboy. I'm sure we've all been there, we've all been whining before we've gone off to school. With his satchel, again, pretty self-explanatory, and shining morning face. Not bearded yet, very young, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. I think we've all been there. I hated school. I hated going to school with my little backpack on and I'm shuffling off to school. But as I said, you keep that image in your head and we read it again. You picture someone not wanting to go to school. And then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. Very different from the mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. We start to give it a little bit more detail. Stage 1 there was the infant. Stage 2, we've got the whining schoolboy. What happens after school? And then the lover. Sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. We can start to see that passion, that love. We've had at first the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. We grow up, and then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. We've all been there. And then the lover, sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. There's a lot of passion in that. What's next? Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. It's the main part of the life here, I think. It's one of the longer ones. A soldier, full of strange oaths, doesn't quite understand it. Bearded like the pard, he's grown up. Jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, ready to fight. Seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth, even with guns pointed at him. We get a little bit more of that. Going back to our warm-ups for a second, you've got those 4 different vocal qualities. As we go through this, start to think about which ones you'd pick. You've got, and then the whining schoolboy, and then we can take it maybe with a lower male, then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. You get a bit more of that strength. And I'm picturing in my head a soldier going off to war, not really understanding what he's doing. Lovely. Let's keep going. And then the justice. So we've grown up even more. The justice, the lawyer, the judge, justice, fairness, equality. In fair round belly, well fed, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut. So it's a lot more corporate, isn't it? It's a lot more older, more wise, wizened, serious eyes. He's seen some stuff. Obviously, he's seen some stuff. We were just in a war previously. Full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. And so life goes on. That's what it's saying. Enjoying these vowels as we go. If I said, and so life goes on, and so he plays his part, it does not have the same impact as, and so he plays his part. I'm not overdoing the vowels, but you can in order to hear the meaning and then bring it back. And so he plays his part. You can see the beauty of Shakespeare in that. And so he plays his part. We move on. The 6th age, we're on to the 6th age now, shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon. What's happening to us? We're getting older, as we all do. We've been a kid, we've been a schoolboy, we've been a lover, we've been a soldier, we've been a justice, a lawyer. Now we've retired. We're in the lean and slippered pantaloon. We've got our lean and slippered, we've got our old man pants on. We've got a walking stick. You've got to picture that in your head. Picture in your head what this man looks like. With spectacles on nose, he's probably got his glasses that he has to push up. And pouch on side, his little money bag, all of that. His youthful hose, his youthful trousers. Well saved. A world too wide for his shrunk shank. It doesn't even fit into his childish trousers anymore. He's so thin and frail. And his big manly voice that we had with Soldier, which is a nice choice. If you took that low male voice with the Soldier, you can take it now. And his big manly voice, turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Much like when we were a kid, the voice goes. Become an old man, the voice starts to get hoarse and croaky as we move on. Last scene of all, so that was 6. 6. Old man, ancient, walking stick, pouch on side, glasses, can't fit into his old trousers anymore. What images does that conjure in your head? Keep them in your head as you read this text. It makes it a lot more powerful. Last scene of all, final one, the 7th stage of man, that ends this strange, eventful history, that ends this, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Enjoy the punctuation of that. It's there for a reason, and it ends beautifully. What does that mean? We've died. 7th stage of man, right back where we began. We've died. Mere oblivion, without teeth, without eyes, without taste, without anything. It's a beautiful circle of what life is. So really enjoy that. Enjoy those images, enjoy those vowels as we go through it. Pick the words, mewling, puking as we go through. Even in the cannon's mouth. He could just say looking down the barrel of a gun. He doesn't. He says even in the cannon's mouth, looking out at that. In fair, round belly, with good capon lined. He could just say fat, but he doesn't. He says with good with good, fair, round belly. Beautiful words in there. That's why Shakespeare, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So as you go through this, keep the images in your mind. Deep breath in, root yourself. Go through those vocal qualities. See what applies to which. Try a different one. It might take you somewhere new. Be free, be explored. There are no wrong answers. As long as you believe it, we as an audience will believe it, or even if it's just for yourself. Thank you.